The Hungarian Grand Prix threw us a curveball we didn't see coming. Max Verstappen, a driver we've watched dominate the sport since 2021, reminded us of the past. That raw, unfiltered determination we saw from him when he didn't have the most superior car. A time when he had to fight for every position, often pushing to the limits to make a move stick. The collision with Lewis Hamilton in Turn 1 nearly ended both of their races, and that was just the beginning. Now, with the RB20 not being the clear standout car anymore, it's clear that Verstappen's success isn't just down to the car, but his talent. Could this be a sign that the Dutchman, known for his elbows-out racing style, is coming back in full force? After all, during the race in Hungary, his reactions spoke volumes. From his attitude toward the pit wall to the clash with Hamilton, Verstappen was visibly frustrated. And truth be told, it's hard to argue against the idea that some of his actions were, in his mind, fully justified. This wasn't just about strategy. This was about emotions running high. Verstappen's frustration wasn't just at his team, but also at the situation unfolding around him. With all the pressure building, we saw a side of him that we haven't seen in a while. Would the drivers he's battling at the front, like Hamilton, Norris, and others, be ready for a more intense, unpredictable Max than we've seen in recent seasons? Verstappen's actions during the Hungarian Grand Prix raised more than a few eyebrows. His team principal, Christian Horner, usually known for his calm and composed demeanor, didn't step in to defend Max when he complained about a possible investigation involving Hamilton. Instead, Horner responded with a dose of realism, telling Verstappen, "I'm not going to get into a radio fight with the other teams, Max. Let the stewards handle it." It was a rare moment where Verstappen's usual support from his team wasn't as firm. Earlier in the race, Verstappen was annoyed after being told to give up his position to Lando Norris. He felt he was ahead, but the team instructed him to hand it back to avoid a penalty. His response? A sarcastic outburst saying, "Okay, so you can just drive people off the track, then you can tell the FIA that's how we're going to race the whole race." This was coming from a three-time world champion, a driver who's more than proven himself with over 100 podiums and 62 career wins. But there was something about the way he was reacting that made you wonder, is the Verstappen we knew in 2021 returning? The one who was known for pushing his car and his rivals to the absolute limit? Verstappen's frustrations weren't just about racing incidents. They also had to do with the fact that for the first time in years, he didn't have the luxury of dominating every race. In previous seasons, Verstappen was so far ahead that he could win with a comfortable margin, sometimes even managing a free pit stop for the fastest lap. But now, the competition is tightening up. Teams like McLaren and Mercedes are pushing hard, and Verstappen doesn't have that same cushion to fall back on. For a driver like Max, who's used to commanding the race, the change is significant. It's clear from his recent radio messages and behavior that he's not enjoying the pressure. When Lambasi, his race engineer, suggested he take it easy on the tires, Verstappen exploded, saying, "No, don't give me that stuff now. You guys gave me the damn strategy, okay? I'm trying to rescue what's left, for God's sake." The frustration was palpable. The words weren't just about the race strategy. They were about the tension, the stress, and perhaps even a bit of regret over how things were unfolding. Max's emotional reactions raise a big question for the rest of the grid. If Verstappen doesn't have the same dominance, does this bring back the fiery, unpredictable version of him? One that could make things more interesting for everyone else, but also a bit more dangerous on track? The way Verstappen has been handling things lately should be a concern not only for Red Bull, but for everyone on the grid. We've seen him in similar situations before, like in 2021 when he and Hamilton had intense moments that often resulted in both drivers pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable. Those encounters, full of tension and on-the-edge racing, left us questioning whether Verstappen's emotional side could sometimes cloud his judgment. Take the incident in Austria, for example. Verstappen didn't leave enough space for Norris on track, but it wasn't the same kind of angry reaction we saw in Hungary. However, when Norris tried to overtake Verstappen despite having a damaged car, Max wasn't about to give him an inch. Even with a puncture, Verstappen defended fiercely. It's clear that the fire in him is still very much alive, and sometimes that fire can lead to reckless decisions, especially when emotions take over. But what's more interesting is how Red Bull is reacting to this change in Verstappen. For the first time in years, they're being outsmarted by other teams, particularly Mercedes, who managed to pull off an undercut during the race. This wasn't supposed to happen. Red Bull's strategy was once flawless, and Verstappen was the driver who could make any situation work. But now, with McLaren and Mercedes catching up, the dynamic is shifting, and Verstappen's frustration is palpable. In Hungary, Verstappen had to fight hard just to catch up with Charles Leclerc, who was performing exceptionally well on the medium tires. Even after a relentless push to get past him, Verstappen couldn't quite manage it, finishing behind Leclerc despite closing the gap dramatically. The race's final stages were intense, with Verstappen chasing down Hamilton, who had opted for a different tire strategy. This was one of the moments where the pressure truly showed. Verstappen's desire to make up for lost time, combined with the changing grip of the tires, led to some aggressive maneuvers. But things didn't go smoothly. Verstappen's tire management wasn't ideal, and despite his team's advice to take care of his tires, he was having none of it. His radio outburst wasn't just frustration with the strategy. It was a sign that the cracks were starting to show. For a driver who's used to being in control, this sudden shift in dynamics, where the strategies aren't working as planned, is clearly eating at him. And the fact that Verstappen has become more vocal about it, especially on the radio, indicates that his usual composure is starting to fade under the pressure. The question now is whether Verstappen can find that balance again. Can he adapt to this more competitive environment? Will he learn from these moments, or will we see a version of him that's more unpredictable, more prone to snapping under pressure? One thing's for sure, the rest of the grid will be watching closely. As we move further into the season, Verstappen's struggles seem to highlight something bigger than just race strategy or tire management. His behavior, particularly his emotional responses, show that he's not handling the situation as he has in the past. For the first time in years, he's up against teams that can challenge Red Bull's dominance. McLaren and Mercedes are now real threats, and Verstappen's frustration is evident. It's not just about trying to get back to the top. It's about dealing with the reality that his once infallible advantage is slowly eroding. The tension we saw in Hungary, where Verstappen blamed Hamilton for the Turn 1 incident, only added to this sense of uncertainty. His aggressive defense against Norris in Austria and the way he handled the tire management situation in Hungary, it all points to a Max Verstappen that's not in full control of his emotions. And as we've seen before, when Verstappen loses that control, he's capable of some erratic decisions. What's even more concerning is that this emotional version of Verstappen isn't just affecting his racing, it's affecting his relationship with his team. The radio messages, the complaints, and the growing tension on track could lead to more internal drama within Red Bull. If Verstappen continues down this path, we might see the kind of breakdown in team dynamics that could ultimately affect the entire team's performance. As the season progresses, one thing is clear: Max Verstappen's emotional volatility could be a double-edged sword for both him and Red Bull. We've seen the best of him when he's calm, focused, and in control of his race, but the recent outbursts suggest a driver who's struggling with the pressure of competition. With McLaren and Mercedes showing they can keep up, Verstappen's usually unshakable confidence is being tested. The question now is whether this will make him stronger or weaker. Will Verstappen find his rhythm and rise to the challenge, or will the mounting stress lead to more mistakes and frustration? We've seen what he's capable of when he's in his prime, but now, with the pressure on and the dynamics changing, Verstappen's mental game will be just as important as his racing skills. This could either bring out the best version of him, one that thrives under pressure and battles hard until the very end, or it could open the door for more instability. For now, the rest of the grid, including Hamilton, Norris, and others, will be watching closely. If Verstappen can't control his emotions, it could have a ripple effect on his performance and Red Bull's overall standing. With the Drivers' Championship still in his favor, it's not over for Max yet. But with every race, the pressure builds, and only time will tell how he responds. What do you think? Can Verstappen regain control? Or are we witnessing the unraveling of the Dutchman's dominance?